I am making this video to teach you how to do what I call take Cornell Notes. Cornell Notes are two-column notes. So what you're going to do is you're going to start your notes each night with two columns. And on the left side of your paper, you will have what's called your objective and your vocabulary. Now, your notebook paper automatically has a natural two columns. And so the red line of your notebook paper is where you can separate your two columns. And you won't have to draw this line like I did. Now, mine's black because I'm using black ink, but yours will be red. So you will have your red line, and on the left, you're going to write objective and vocabulary, and I will give you the objective in your lesson. So for now, your objective is going to be able to learn how to take Cornell Notes. And your vocabulary, for now, is going to be Cornell Notes, because some of you have never heard of Cornell Notes. And so if you've never heard of Cornell Notes, put a circle to the left of Cornell Note. If you've heard of it, but you're not sure what it is, put a check mark. If you already know what Cornell Notes are, you put an X. Okay, so before the lesson starts, you're going to rank your vocabulary words. When I'm completely finished with the lesson, you come back and you rank your vocabulary words a second time. Now, sometimes you will have many vocabulary words, and so you will continue your vocabulary words. Sometimes you won't have any vocabulary words, and sometimes you may only have one, like you do here in this lesson. Sometimes also you will have more than one objective. Then what you do is you're going to write a question for this objective. So for example, for this lesson, you would write, how do I take Cornell Notes? Then what you do is you fill in the information as I go through the lesson. So you should have this question written down in your notes. Now I'm going to go through the lesson to teach you how to take Cornell Notes. And the first thing you're going to learn is how to rank your vocabulary words. Okay? And so maybe you want another question down here is, how do I rank my vocabulary words? So that you can take a look back at this throughout the year in case you forget how to rank your vocabulary words as the year goes on. Okay, so here is how you rank your vocabulary. Your X means that you really know the word. In other words, you could explain it to the teacher or to a friend. So you could give the definition or you could use it in a sentence. A check mark means that you kind of know the word. In other words, maybe you've heard of it, or you could come up with some sort of definition, but maybe you couldn't necessarily teach it to someone else. A circle means that you have no idea what the word means. In other words, you've never heard of it, or you couldn't really give me a definition. Okay, so pause the video if you need to finish filling out this information about how to rank vocabulary words when you do Cornell Notes. Writing questions for your objectives. You can write your questions for objectives however you want to. You don't always have to use the word how. You can use the word, when do I do this? How do I do this? What would be a good way to do this? What are the steps for doing this? Because you know, a lot of times in mathematics, we have steps or procedures for doing things. Then during the video, the idea is to answer the question to the objective and to write down examples for how to do the math. You should do this with examples and notes. You should never write on the back of your notes, because your notes are going to be a great way to study for exams. And if you write on the back, it's really hard for me to grade them. Also, on the back, you want to use it for writing other things down that you might want to ask me the next day in class. Okay, so never write on the back of your notes, because that will be a time when I will deduct points from your grade. Notes are a great way to get 20 out of 20 on your homework. But if you do things like write on the back, forget to rank your vocabulary, or forget to write your objectives or questions, then I take points off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go through an example that's a math example of how to do Cornell Notes. So here is an objective: to be able to solve two-step equations. And the vocabulary for solving two-step equations is inverse operations. So if this was a real example, here would be your 2 column. Okay, so the question would be, maybe this time I say, what are the steps for solving two-step equations? So see, I used, instead of the word how, I used what. Okay, so since it's two-step equations, there's probably 2 steps. Okay, I forgot to rank my vocabulary word. So I'm going to pretend like I'm a student and not a teacher. And I think I remember inverse operations from Algebra 1. And I think that I'll give it a check mark because I remember the word. Okay, so the first step is that I'm going to use the inverse operation of addition or subtraction to move the constant away from the variable. Then the second step is to use the inverse operations of multiplication or division to move the coefficient away from the variable. Okay, so this is kind of like what my lessons will be like. Then I would do a math example for you. So an example might be something like 2x plus 7 equal to 4. So here's the variable. So the first step was to use the inverse operation of addition or subtraction to move the constant. So here's a constant. We're going to move 7 away from the variable. So that would give me 2x equal to -3. Then I'm going to move this number, the coefficient, away from the variable by dividing. So my answer is x equals -3/2. Okay, so that's kind of like what I would expect in your Cornell Notes. Okay, and we'll go over a video in class together so you can get a better idea or more examples of what I would expect in your Cornell Notes before I have you do it on your own.